Hey, don't worry about the camera here. It won't be here when I'm actually talking about the game, but just for the introduction, in this video I'm going over a lot of what I consider, well, what we know to be optimal with this character. I'm not going to be kind of making things easier, if that makes sense. I'm going to do what's realistically optimal for the most part in what I'm showing. That's going to be combos, setups, meaty situations, corner pressure, all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to go over absolutely everything. Like, I'm not going over every optimal combo, for example, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to show some very important ones, and I'm going to talk about the important parts of Ed's combo structure and why things are the way they are. And it should make a lot of sense, right? And it should explain things that I don't even need to show. So anyway, let's get into it. Okay, let's start with Ed's combo structure and his combos and the idea behind them. One of the major aspects of Ed's combos in the mid screen is you want to do as much damage as you can while also ending in this move, Heavy Blitz. The reason you want to do this is because for very minimal damage loss, Heavy Blitz is not only great corner carry, but also a great knockdown situation for you. So what can you do to follow this up? The general go-to is this, right? See? +9, you chase the knockdown. If I set Ed to throw here, you see? You get the idea. So this is great. You get a shimmy, you know, you chase even back rise, you chase the back rise and you still get this like shimmy game against your opponent, which is really good. You can do a meaty button, you can do a meaty throw, very good. And I thought that was pretty simple at first, but then after some testing, I found there's a lot more going on to this knockdown than I initially thought. So we've got Ed to throw here. Let's change him to just recover in place. If Ed recovers in place, I can't shimmy here anymore. If he does a quick wake up throw, I don't have time to shimmy. I'd have to backdash to punish that if I thought it was coming. And I have to see that he did a quick rise, right? So I thought, how can this be dealt with effectively? And the answer is pretty simple. You just dash instead of doing the kill rush, right? But there's more kind of counterplay to this, okay? So if you start doing that, then if they start to recover backwards, I've actually recorded this to make it a bit more easy to see. They start recovering backwards, all of a sudden they can walk out of the throw if they back rise, right? So there's a lot going on here. You have to kind of have a read on the back rise or the quick rise, what rise they're going to do to get the most out of the knockdown situation. But I mean, the good news is at the very least, 99% of players you ever play are going to back rise every time because that's just what they do when they get hit by combos. Only really good players are going to work this out and kind of play that little mind game. But even if they do, and even if they get it right, you can still do meaty pressure. You still have a lot of options, you know. It's a better situation for you overall. Alright, Meterless combo conversions. Meterless, your general goal for combo structure is you want to end in a heavy, like a late kill rush upper into your heavy blitz, right? Which is really good in terms of like damage and corner carry and pressure for Meterless. Ed's got some actually pretty great Meterless options. But how can you get into this route? In terms of natural combos, you have two options. You have stand heavy punch, and you have crouching medium kick, right? They will naturally combo into this move. And you might be thinking, maybe that makes my neutral a bit one-dimensional if all I'm really fishing for, if I want an optimal combo, is I'm kind of just throwing these two buttons out and hoping to get hits that way, right? But there's some good news. When you play neutral generally, almost all of the conversions or hits you get in neutral, they're going to be, you counter hit someone who's trying to press and, you know, you hit their poke as it was coming out, or they whiffed and you whiff punish it. And in these situations, the counter hit gives you enough extra frames to combo a lot of your kind of neutral tools into this ender. As you can see there, even his crouching medium punch, which is his low. So you actually have a lot of options to get here, right? The only noteworthy examples is even with punish counter, this move and this move will not combo into a late kill rush upper. If you're going to combo into these moves in neutral, your best bet is to just drive rush, right? But obviously that costs meter, so meterless, something like that, I guess. You can get this, but the problem, and even, you know, stuff like this, the problem is if you're with punishing something and you do that from like this range, it's going to cause problems. It's going to whiff. But I will say this button is surprisingly good at pulling you in for stuff like this, right? It's actually a very reliable button for getting blitz. It can whiff at absolute max range if you hit some big normal, but that's great. And the reason you want to get into this move is that super.
Another thing is sometimes you'll combo into this target combo. You know, it just happens. Sometimes this is the combo to go to, and mid-screen, you know, that's usually your best bet. And you can get wake up pressure off this. Like this. That auto times. If you do forward dash, drive rush, it'll auto time the pressure. But obviously, your opponent can react to the drive rush and they can reversal you on wake up. So what you might actually want to do is something like this, right? I mean, the timing's a bit off there because I haven't practiced it, but the idea of doing it like this instead of doing the auto time is that if they wake up reversal, you can do something like that, right? You have time to fake the pressure. So that's the idea. Another thing with this combo is in the corner, you can actually get a proper bigger ender, right? Which you want to go for. Like that. And in general, when you're comboing in the corner off of heavy kill rush upper, like the late kill rush upper, you want to end with heavy DP because it gives you more damage and you get the same kind of wake up pressure because you're in the corner. Alright, let's talk about counter hit conversions, right? We already talked about kind of counter hit combos. I have counter hit set on at the moment. Yeah, we already talked about this, but let's talk about conversions, right? We'll start with this button. This button is your fastest medium. It's 7 frames, which is a bit slower than average, but it's actually very plus on hit. If you counter hit with this, you can do something like this, right? It combos into your crouching medium punch, which is really cool. That's a good one. So, very good confirm there for if people are kind of pressing and you can catch them with this up close, like kind of counter hit them before they get it out. You can do that. Next we'll talk about is this button. It's actually quite a hard button to use in neutral, but it's very rewarding when it works. This button counter hits into itself, which is crazy because look at the range on this. You can do
It's a pretty nuts button, but it takes a bit of a effort to get working right. So that's another great one. And this obviously combos into itself, which is cool, very useful. Now on punish counter, there's actually some pretty cool stuff, right? This is +9, so what you can do here, if you see a button, you move out of the way, you whiff punish it with this. You can do that, which is very cool combo. This character has such big damage and kind of good setups, Meterless, but it's not easy stuff, you know what I mean? Compared to other characters anyway. Alright, let's talk about your metered routes now. Now it is kind of interesting because he's not like most characters where that would be your kind of optimal route. If you're going to spend 3 bars, your optimal route is actually to start with this OD pull. And naturally OD pull combos of stand heavy punch and crouching. It's the same rules as your late kill rush upper, right? Same rules. Which means if you counter hit, which I just put it on then, you can actually get it off a lot of buttons. So if you're with punishing or you're kind of counter hitting pokes before they come out, you can get into this move. Now, your optimal combo route, it looks something like this. Mid-screen, that's what you're going to be doing, right? However, there are some important buttons that, even with punish counter, you're not going to be able to combo into OD Snatcher, right? And these buttons are this, which, as everyone knows, very important button. And this. You will not get into OD Snatcher off these moves. Maybe if you drive rush punish counter, but you know, it's not very realistic. So these are the 2 buttons that you will actually drive rush cancel. One thing I should mention is if you are doing a drive rush combo of this button especially, the optimal is like this, but if they're crouching, this whiffs, right? So what can you do in this situation? If you're only spending 3 bars, you just need to confirm if they're crouching or not during the flash, or like just, you know. And if you see they're crouching, you just have to kind of do a normal combo like that. You can restand them, but it's not going to get you more damage. But if you're blowing your whole, you know, drive gauge, you do want to restand them during the combo so that the second rep they're standing and you can get better damage. And you have 2 buttons to do this. This button, as you can see, force stand, and this button forces stand as well. So in combo you could do something like that, right? You get the idea. You restand them during the first combo, and then in the second combo they're standing. Although you don't even have to use this. You can just do this and the heavy punch will restand them for the next part. If you want to spend a bit of meter in the corner, this is a combo that I quite like. Nice and simple, but it gets the job done. Good damage. I haven't seen too much, or really anything that I can think of that does more damage for 2 bars. And you're not spending 3 like a drive rush, you know what I mean? So I like that. Let's talk about stun combo, right? Where you're going to dump all your resources for a kill. This is what you do. Because of the scaling, how scaling works, when you stun someone, it's actually the most optimal I've found is starting with fully charged knuckle. Right, this is the most damage I found realistically. There is a combo that does more damage with some micro walks and that, but I mean the difficulty, you can get it with a fair bit of practice, but you know, if you just want a normal kind of combo that isn't a bunch of micro walks where you need 6 gauges to even get the extra rep, that's realistically more like what you're going to be doing.
What are you waiting for?
Drive impact time. Alright, there's 2 main combos that I like to go to for drive impact, and this is the one that costs 1 bar. I usually do that because I think for 1 bar that's very good, but if you want to go full meterless route, you do that. These can take a little bit of practice to get used to timing these combos. They're a bit tricky, but like, or dash in here will give you the auto timing to make it a bit easier. Okay, wall splat combo time. Now the cool thing about this is I'm going to give you a pretty simple combo, but it's pretty good, and a lot of people haven't realized this about Ed's combo routes in this situation. With the wall splat, you actually get a tiny bit extra air than you would from a normal combo, so you can actually do this. That would not work grounded, but it's really cool. Good damage for meterless. I mean, if you wall splat them even higher than that, you can definitely get an even bigger ender like that, like a heavier blitz, or like even some of the uppers, right? Alright, reversal punishes. Ed actually has a pretty unique reversal punish. This is what you want to do for your starter. This combo, I would recommend practicing it a lot because it's actually pretty tight to get the snatch there. But you want to start with this flicker, the medium one, because you can start with this one as well and it'll work, but this one is more damage. So medium flick is your starter, and if you want to spend 2 bars, you can do, you know, that's not the optimal combo at the end there, but you get the idea. You can go into OD Snatcher for an easier combo and 2 bar spend. Okay, now let's talk about if you're playing neutral and you happen to punish counter with this move, either version, right? What can you do to capitalize on this? And the meterless route looks like this. Alright, that's what you're doing meterless. At max range, this combo becomes very finicky, and sometimes you just got to take what you can get. But an easier version of this combo, and one that will work even at longer ranges, is you just go into EX, right? That's the idea. But yeah, look out for these. Very, very good combos. Cool, really cool conversion from really far away. Alright. I will briefly talk about level 2 as a combo tool. I actually think this move is very good as a combo tool for a lot of reasons. Resource management being one of the biggest, but also screen positioning. The first one I'll go over is the Kakaru combo, which I think is very good. Oh, look at that corner carry. You're still doing almost max damage. You carry like 3/4 of the screen. And you build back a ton of resources. One thing about Ed's level 2 is even though you spend 2 bars to get it going, like 2 drive gauge, you get that drive gauge back by the time the combo's over. And also you're building super meter back during the combo as well. The next 2 that I'm going to talk about, they are your optimal damage and kind of knockdown situation. So let's go with the optimal knockdown situation. This is, I think this is the trial combo, right? That lets you end in heavy blitz. It does almost max damage, so you get your mid-screen kind of pressure still going, right? And if you just want all the damage, you do something like this. That's the kind of most damage I've really seen. And you won't get your knockdown pressure, but if it goes into the corner, you will. And if you're just trying to kill, generally your best bet, right? Alright. Let's talk about corner pressure, right? Because Ed is a character that really shines in the corner, more so than most of the cast, even though most of the cast shine in the corner regardless. But we'll start with safe jumps. The rule of thumb for a safe jump is that you want it to be 42 frames. As you can see here, plus 42. We put this on. That's the idea, right? And as you just saw, this combo route here, I'm showing you one that sacrifices as little damage as possible to get to the safe jump. There's a couple others, but they're a lot more of a sacrifice. But there is one interesting thing about this. If you were to combo into that from another button, it's plus 43, right? Which kind of messes the safe jump up. But there's something you can do. If you just delay the medium blitz by a little bit, you will get it. And that was too much. See? Plus 42. So, and it's not that hard to do that timing. It might sound like it's hard, but it's not. So that's kind of the idea of Ed's safe jumps in the corner. Moving on to his Meaty spark options. This is actually very useful, and I've swapped to JP for a very special reason when explaining this, and it's a lot more good news than you might initially think. So anyway, let's get into it. Meaty spark you can do with the same setup off of all of your common enders in the corner, right? Plus 4, you know, give or take. Maybe you'll be a bit slow, but it'll still be very plus, right? Why do you want to do this? Obviously because Meaty Spark will beat OD Amnesia on Wake Up because it loses the fireballs, but even any character's level 1s, it'll beat as well. So, let's put Amnesia on. Right, and level 1. You get the idea, but there's something more to this. Take a look at this. This is JP's level 3. It beats that too. So if you Meaty Spark JP, he cannot reversal you at all off of the spark on Wake Up. Alright, let's talk about Ed's corner throw game. I think he probably has the best corner throw game of anyone, but everyone's is still really good. But he has the most options in a sense. And I'll go over the two kind of most simple ones first. The first is throw here, kill rush, throw again, right? I don't really recommend this. This is a meaty throw, which is great, but the problem is when you kill rush forward, you don't have enough time to shimmy. You'll get thrown if you try to walk back here, and you have better options. What I do recommend as a default is throw them or dash. You can throw again if you want. You can shimmy. It's a lot better situation. So that is what I recommend as the default. Now the third option Ed has in the corner, which is the more kind of layered option, is he can throw Meaty Snatcher. And this is very useful. I don't recommend it as a default, but it's very useful. So let's say Guile wants to wake up Flash Kick. He can't. And most reversals will whiff against this. What if he wants to wake up Drive Impact? He can't do it. I messed up the first one because the timing can be a bit finicky, but you cannot be Drive Impacted against this. What if he wants to wake up level 1? Also can't. Because this counts as a projectile, level 1s will lose to it. So as you can see, very useful. Very, very useful. The main problem with this is that this situation here, +4, you can't shimmy off this, right? So if you like have a read on a throw, you have to backdash. And I mean, if you're backdashing to shimmy, you're going to get hit by a reversal. It's not as good as a shimmy situation, right? And another thing, the main counterplay to this, can you say wake up parry here? Yeah. The main counter to this, oops, forgot to turn it on, is parry. But there's counterplay to that too. See, reduces the pullback. And if it's perfect parry, they can even punish, but it's greatly scaled and it's not that big a deal. So how do you counterplay this? And the answer to that, simply, you need a read on it. You cancel your sway and you throw it for big damage. And this whole situation is pretty great. It shuts down a lot of options. I think it's worth using sometimes, but as I said before, I think the best default is to just forward dash and take the kind of shimmy reversal bait. You know, you've got a lot safer options to pressure from here, in my opinion, that you can get more out of. But there are certain situations, especially in Burnout, where this situation is really good. Alright, let's talk about level 3 knockdown pressure. If you do the CA version, you're not really getting anything because it's the same plus frames, but they're pushed a lot further away. But with a regular level 3, you can get some stuff. Right, you can drive rush in, start your pressure. And the good thing about this is you can bait out reversals, so it can be a bit scary. Right? So that's the general idea behind knockdown pressure after a level 3. Okay, time to talk about checking drive rush, which is always going to be an important thing in this game. Ed's drive rush checks are actually quite specific and they require quite good reactions usually, because his buttons are very slow on average and they have pretty big hurt boxes. So the first button we'll talk about is this button, which is kind of your most reliable drive rush check, especially close. So let's have Luke do this, right? If you're close and they drive rush, something like that, right? If you don't want to spend the meter, do something like this. That was a bit fast, but you get the idea. Right, and then you take your knockdown. This will work at further ranges too, but it can be a bit finicky because it's a light. Lights further away, they're kind of hard to get working. But that's the idea, as I said. Okay. The next button we're going to talk about is this as a drive rush check. In this kind of mid-range area, it's usually your best bet, but there's a lot to talk about with this button as a drive rush check. So, what do we have, Luke? Okay. About here, you know. You see? You get really good meterless combos off this. It's actually quite good. But there's a lot you have to consider with this button, as I said. The first thing, which is pretty obvious, 9 frame startup, right? That's pretty slow. And for a drive rush, you know, checking drive rush, it can be a hard reaction sometimes. So 9 frames, that's a bit rough. The second thing you have to take into account with this button is not only is it slow startup, but when you throw this out, you create a huge hurt box in front of you. So in reality, it's kind of slower than 9 frames in a sense, because you're closing the distance between you and your opponent by pressing this. So you actually need to be even quicker than that, right? And the third thing you have to consider, which happens sometimes, is sometimes some drive rush normals will low profile this move and just fly right under and hit you. So you have to be really conscious of the matchup, and you need to test a lot, you know, to see how it's going to work. But I mean, looking at the hurtbox stuff of all Ed's buttons, this one seems like it was made to check drive rushes at mid-range, but as I said, with the problems, they exist. But the reward is great, and I think with a lot of practice, it can be pretty reliable.
Getting cold feet?
And finally, if you're pretty far away, I would recommend using this button as a drive rush check, just because it doesn't have the reliability issues of this button or the specifics of this button. It's 10 frames, 1 frame slower, but its hitbox, hurtbox is a lot better suited for doing stuff like this. Right? So if you have enough time to use this button to stop drive rushes, it's a good button for that. It's a very good button for that. Finally, there's a couple of miscellaneous kind of tools, I guess you'd call them, that I think are worth talking about as we close this out. And the first is some block chip, right? Just some ideas. If you have level 2 and you want to chip out, I found this is kind of what I go for, right? Medium upper. And you can see the chip up there. That's a lot of chip for a level 2. A lot of chip. I mean, it's obviously a lot of OD as well, but make sure you do a medium upper on block when the ball's hitting, because heavy will leave you at 0, and they could contest you with a jab there. The other burnout note I wanted to make is we kind of have a Ken run DP situation into level 3, which the execution is actually really tight, but it's definitely worth learning. And I'll try my best to get it. There it is. So you can kind of, you know, really advance from far away and just kill them on block. Alright. This last one is more of a personal gripe I had, so I felt like I had to put it in the video. How many times have you been fighting a JP or a Marissa? You've got them in burnout. They don't have any super to reversal you, and something like this happens, right? I hate that. And when I was waiting for Ed, I thought one of the first things I'm doing is I'm going to work out setups how to beat this, alright? And I haven't gone too much in depth with it, but there's some very easy answers to this. And the answers are your drive rush mediums. As you can see, the gap is small enough there to win. So you can do stuff like, see, normal, drive rush, that works. If you do heavy punch, it locks, so you don't want to do that. But yeah, if you can get in a drive rush, medium punch, or crouch medium kick, you will beat those armor moves when they're in burnout. And yeah, that's all. That's all I have now. I'll have more stuff in the future that will be a bit more focused and well edited.